Hey, this is just a quick note about our sponsor, Privado, the premier enterprise privacy platform, purpose-built to bridge the gap between privacy and engineering. Its privacy code scanning solution embeds privacy compliance and governance into the product development lifecycle and empowers privacy and security teams with unparalleled visibility of sensitive data flows and the insights to find and fix privacy vulnerabilities. You can leverage Privado's data flows, dynamic data mapping, privacy assessment automation, and real-time visibility of privacy issues. Enter the era of proactive privacy and transform privacy from business blocker to business enabler. To learn more, go to privado.ai.
The goal that we have with Yorba is to be able to load something that looks like a personal profile that you can use as identify an agent to connect to different platforms around the internet. But at the same time, that information that's stored for that is actually decentralized into all of these pods around the internet. So it would be very hard for you to ever break into that. There is no central source. There is no, we just broke in and stole all these passwords or all these people's social security numbers, because everything would be broken down into these federated storage pods around the world, right? So that we're just organizing essentially into a easy to digest interface. And then when you log out, it's gone again, right back into its nodes. So you can never really hack Yorba is the goal.
Hello, I am Deborah J. Farber. Welcome to the Shifting Privacy Left podcast, where we talk about embedding privacy by design and default into the engineering function to prevent privacy harms to humans and to prevent dystopia. Each week, we'll bring you unique discussions with global privacy technologists and innovators working at the bleeding edge of privacy research and emerging technologies, standards, business models, and ecosystems. Welcome, everyone, to the Shifting Privacy Left podcast. I'm your host and resident privacy guru, Deborah J. Farber. Today, I'm delighted to welcome my next guest, Chris Zeunstrom. Chris is an American entrepreneur currently residing in Lisbon, Portugal. He is the owner of Crispy Strom Industries, Inc., where he focuses on solving problems, creating products, and building businesses through the thoughtful application of design and technology. Chris is the founder of Ruca, a global design cooperative and founder support network, and Yorba, a reverse CRM and passport to a more ethical internet. Today, we're going to talk about building a privacy-first company, Yorba, with privacy by design. Specifically, we'll discuss the use of a digital minimalist strategy for easy navigation of Yorba and data minimization. We'll discuss decentralized identity for greater control over personal data, privacy-preserving analytics decisions, and how Yorba is leveraging Consumer Reports' data rights protocol for managing permissions to personal data. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thanks, Deborah.
Yeah, great to have you here today. Why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up founding both Ruca and Yorba?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a wild ride. So I started my career in design and kind of healthcare. I went to school for journalism at the University of Kansas. And then ever since then, I've been running design firms in Chicago, Tokyo, New York. And now I was down in Costa Rica for 2 years. And now I've been in Lisbon, Portugal for the last year and a half. Will be 2 years in August. But yeah, it's been quite a ride. And yeah, the way that I guess I ended up here is definitely I've always had that kind of entrepreneurial bend and was inside of branding and design agencies in Chicago and UX UI agencies. And then I got the itch to start something on my own. And we started a political data company around community data. Basically, data-driven democracy is what we were trying to do, trying to get better insights into communities in an ethical way. And then that company flamed out and went deep into debt. And that created Ruca, which was started as a founder support network for myself and my co-founder of that and our own pursuits. But the model for Ruca really worked, and it really attracted a lot of the entrepreneurial creative talent and what we call agency expats and ex-founders, current founders, all that type of stuff. So we started Ruca 7 years ago, and we've worked with lots of huge brands, lots of small startups you've never heard of, but it's a flat organization ran on agile design principles for marketing, branding, UX, UI, product development, everything under the sun. And through that, we have a couple different I guess, kind of pillars of Ruca. We have our services, which works with the large entities, the Morningstars, Barnes& Noble, Forbes, and lots of name brands, ZocDoc, Zola, things like that. Then we've got our foundation, which gives back to things that are cooperative upvotes every year. We've got our ventures, which invests in external products to Ruca, but usually with a mandate, it's a founder working on a personal problem, and it has the potential to have a positive impact on society. And then the last one is our products, which is where what we're talking about today got birthed out of, which is Yorba. And that's our own way to leverage the collective mind share that we've built up at Ruca, which is 75 to almost 100 people strong across the world, to basically build our own products and create our self system to get products and companies up and running. So we like to say it's hard to define what we do, Ruca, but the simple version of it is that we create products, companies, and brands of all different sizes. And we've been doing that. What better use case than to do that for yourself with Yorba? So it's been a wild ride. Yorba is about 2 years old and full development. Started as a research project about 3 years ago during COVID. And yeah, that's where we're at.
That is really awesome. I just love that there's a kind of a whole like systemic thought process. Yorba came out of your minimalist design kind of Ruca. It was an output of kind of your, I want to say ideology, but what you've assessed to be good design. And so let's talk a little bit about that. What is Yorba? Who's it for? Tell us some of the main product features, especially around privacy.
We started Yorba, like I said, about 2-3 years ago with a focus on basically applying. You were a lot of designers. So I think one of the things that is interesting is that we have more of a design approach towards privacy, probably than a lot of your past people that have come onto the podcast, or like maybe even your audience. But we applied design basically to the internet as a whole, which I know sounds corny, to look at where could we focus to make people's lives better from a societal aspect. And where we came out of that was Yorba. And we're not even to really the start of what the product vision is for Yorba, but Yorba right now, as the way that we constructed it as a go-to-market tool to make it easier for citizens and people to declutter and get rid of all the baggage that they've accrued over the last 2 decades of essentially just using the internet. Wandering around the internet, you're going to pick up a lot of barnacles at sea, whatever analogy you want to use. And so we started Yorba to basically give people a tool to get people off of all the lists that they've accrued over the years, over the decades, with their email inboxes as a primary identifier for identity that we use today. But yeah, it's a way to basically simplify your online existence. So if you have 500 accounts, we give you ways to get down to having 100 accounts. And right now it's pretty manual when it comes to like logins and things like that. But some of our biggest features that people love, we just launched. There's also good context. We launched at the start of January. We were picked up in TechCrunch as a digital platform like Mint for decluttering your online life. And that drove a lot of new members and users and premium members to Yorba. Since Yorba is a self-funded through Ruca public benefit corporation, which we intentionally incorporated as a PBC at the beginning to keep the intent of what we're trying to build clean, even at scale when more investors and stuff might want to get involved. But yeah, so on the feature front right now, you can log into Yorba. Yorba is a platform that manages relationships. So we think of everything as a relationship that you have online, not like in the dating app sense or anything like that, but the relationships that people have with platforms, right? So the platforms they use, the platforms they don't use, the platforms they've never used, but somehow end up on those lists. And we're trying to give people the insight to get off of those lists. And one of the things that we've seen working with lots of startups and working with lots of stuff on the Ruca side is all of the highly sophisticated CRM tools, mailing list tools, all these things that that the businesses have to manage. Any small business has to manage all of their member lists or their prospects and stuff like that. But there's not really a CRM version of that for the citizen side, for the consumer side. And that's why we really focused in on Yorba as being that reverse CRM, which makes sense to some people. It's confusing to some if you're not in that space. But yeah, we think of it as a way for you to aggregate all the data that people have on you and slowly get rid of it. If you weigh 500 pounds, you want to get down to 300 pounds, right? A way to start shedding all of that weight. And the key features around unsubscribing from emails. So right now we connect to Gmail. We put it all in a clean little CRM system that you can just manually, right from Yorba, unsubscribe from all the mailing lists that I guess in the digital minimalism aspects don't bring you joy, that you don't need, that don't have any utility, that are just noise and clogging up your stuff. We also have a way through that same inbox connection to find all the past accounts and logins using natural language processing and machine learning to basically identify those and pull those out for you. And then we created a database of the top 10,000 linked sites online so that we have instructions on how to delete those with a lot of direct account links. So if we find 300 accounts that you might have online, chances are there's going to be a lot of instructions on how to delete those. You can definitely easily unsubscribe from everything in Yorba. And then we're working on ways to make that a not as manual process on the deletion front. We also, through Plaid, we connect into your bank account and we run a script on that to find all of your paid subscriptions so you can see what you're paying for. And then, I guess on the privacy functions, we have partnered with a platform called TOSDR, Terms of Service Didn't Read. They basically created right now a manual way to basically a system to grade all these privacy policies based on what data they get, how hard it is to get rid of the account, stuff like that. And they give them a grade, and we associate those grades to any relationship and account that we found. And all of that is helping you manage your overall digital footprint. And we also do the basic monitoring the dark web and kind of the open web for any data breaches, which a lot of password managers do and stuff. But it is something people actually really love on Yorba. Is just a one-stop shop to see all the relationships that are associated to your identity online right now.
That's pretty awesome. What inspired you to focus on consumer privacy issues with Yorba? So many of the privacy tech and privacy first companies that come to market often focus on B2B. So let us know what really inspired you here.
Yeah, there's more people in the world than businesses. So we wanted to really do something that impacted people's lives. And I think it's probably easier to focus on the business side. It's easier to make revenue. It's easier to find investors. It's easier to sell your company. But that's not our intent with Yorba. So we wanted to take the hard route. And we've also taken the hard route on privacy stuff with Yorba, things that would be a lot easier if we just installed the easy platforms that put you into basically the well of data with everybody else, or track things and optimize the different funnels, like all those things. Those make it a lot easier to start a company for privacy issues. But for us, Yorba, we want it to stay clean. We want it to be this public benefit corporation that we set it out to be. So we want it to have a positive impact on society. And I believe even for the first 2 months that we've been really live, we've seen a lot of people really love what we're doing. And I think one of the most exciting things for me over the last 2 months is something I've worked on for 2 years, is we are a small team of 10 people. So when we got this wave of TechCrunch traffic and stuff, like I am the person that is manning the intercom chatbots, right? I'm answering the questions, but we got so much love through those on what we're doing, and people think it's amazing what we're trying to do. And we want to, that's a lot more fun for our team to focus on the consumer side of stuff, just because there's enough tools out there that help you automate and do all these other things on the B2B side. And, for us on the privacy aspect for consumers, a lot of it takes, from a design perspective and like a methodology and a mindset perspective, a lot of our privacy is privacy by reduction and doing things the right way with lean data practices, but also just if you have less nodes to attack from a privacy standpoint, you are safer, right? You are healthier online, if we want to use that analogy. So we want to help people get healthier online so that they can make more informed decisions in the future, which will also be a part of the platform that we're trying to build here.
I love it. And I think it's absolutely a noble cause. We definitely need more attention on consumer privacy products. And as you explained, they're just a little harder to bring to market for various reasons. And I know you set this up as a public benefit corporation or a B Corp. Can you share with our listeners who may not be familiar with that concept, that what are the benefits to designating the organization as a B Corp, and just what does it even involve to become a B Corp?
Yeah, so there's an organization out there called B Corp that can license kind of the branding and marketing of like you are B Corp. And if you see that little B logo around, that's actually an organization that keeps people to a certain high standards of, it can be around sustainability, it can be around privacy, it can be around a lot of different topics. But essentially it all comes down to that you have a triple bottom line to your business. So it's not just profit over people at all times. There's some other qualifier that you have written in essentially to track as a company. And for Yorba's instance, we actually incorporated as a B Corp, which in the legal concepts, that's called a public benefit corporation. So we're enshrined from the get-go to basically have that triple bottom line and to make sure that we're doing good for society, that we're tracking all the good stuff, all the DEI, everything that people try to, honestly, I would say like lots of larger corporations or even later stage startups try to badge themselves as this. Very little companies, I would argue, do what Yorba's doing, which is incorporate themselves as that. Because to your question around what are the benefits of that, there aren't a lot. So there's more scrutiny to do it the right way from your internal team that joins you at the early stage company. And if you do find scale and stuff like that, you do have more reporting to do. At the beginning, they don't really care until you find some traction and stuff, but it does put you more in a legally enshrined thing where you have to report out on that stuff. And then the kind of the classic example in the startup world for us is investors don't like B Corps because it does not put profit first, and that scares them. You can still be a very highly profitable company, and there has been these ones, Kickstarter. You can go on B Corp's website. There's a decent amount of companies you've heard of. Lemonade is a recent example of a B Corp that went public for a lot of money, the insurance company that did things the right way.
And they got some funding as well.
Yeah, they got a lot of funding, and so it can be done. You just don't hear about it as much, right? The case with Kickstarter, which I love personally, and I think founders love it, but I would say investors don't love it, is the founder of Kickstarter was not a B Corp at the beginning and basically went through the process of becoming a B Corp to essentially limit the outside investor noise on his board. In our founder world, he's a little hero in our like kind of socially conscious driven tech startup space. You can go look it up, but there's definitely a lot of articles about investors not liking that, right? But he changed midstream, right? Because he would argue that the B Corp movement and stuff like that didn't exist when he started Kickstarter, really. So he changed it to that. But yeah, it's fun.
It is fun. I love that. I love that he used the incorporation there to actually control his investors. I think that's funny.
Yeah, it makes you like Kickstarter more, right?
It does. It's activism, but I think it's for the public's benefit. So it's definitely something I can get behind.
Yeah, and I guess if you're asking like what's the primary benefit of the B Corp, it is a signal to the market that you are trying to do things a little bit differently, right? And Ben & Jerry's is a B Corp. So there's, Allbirds, the shoes or the socks or something there. I think they are as well. But there's a couple of high profile ones, mostly on the retail side that try to signal to the market that they're not some huge mega corp that's going to just do whatever to squeeze a buck. So that's probably your long-term benefit of being a B Corp is that flag that you're flying.
Yeah. And I want to point out, I don't think at all that any criticism of it being virtue signaling to be a B Corp really makes any sense because you're literally standing by, like you're creating the constraints to the business that are a forcing function to actually stand by the values that you're telling the public that you have. And if anything, you're not just saying something and maybe in your daily life, not actually doing it. You're literally forcing into the design of everything of the company, putting the public over profits. And I think that's amazing. So congrats on that and having successful product launch. And sounds like a lot of people are really excited about what you're building.
Yeah, it's early, but there's good signals for sure.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot more to talk about in terms of the design decisions you've made, some architectural approaches. But first, I know you talk a lot about digital minimalism. Can you unpack that a little bit about what that means to you and then how you see that increasing privacy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the digital minimalism movement. And it was coined by a professor, I think he's on the East Coast somewhere, I think in Baltimore or something, Cal Newport. So you'll hear, if you look up the book, you can find it on Amazon. But digital minimalism is definitely a movement that is starting out there. There's a lot of podcasts on it now, so there's no shortage of content on it. But really what digital minimalism is, it's this decluttering of kind of all of these things that either don't bring you joy or don't have a utility in your life and to get rid of them, right? For a lot of people, that's getting off social media, that's deleting, go through your phone and just delete all these apps, right? Do you need all those apps? So just delete all of them, turn off all the notifications on your phone so they can't keep asking you for your time and attention. I think Tal, the guy who started digital minimalism, and then my friend Ryder, who started a company called Bullet Journal, which embraces that type of mindset and journaling and kind of reflection. I've learned a lot from them, basically. And from a digital minimalism perspective, it's all about, does it have utility? If it doesn't, get rid of it, basically. Because it's not like naive. You're not going to delete your iMessage app, right? Because it you get too many text messages. Like you need that, you need to pick up your kids from school, right? So you're going to leave that on. You're not going to delete that. But it's getting rid of all these little things on the kind of the secondary and tertiary of your digital life so that you have more time to focus on the present and to focus on the things that really matter to you. I think if you read into like kind of larger minimalism topics, you're usually going to find that it revolves around, once again, that kind of decluttering aspect. But it might be like looking at your closet and you have 20 shirts, right? And you don't want to just throw those away, right? Maybe you put 5 in a box for a month, right? And if you still don't need them in that month, you get rid of them, right? And so there's like Ryder says it best from Bullet Journal, but there's a physical weight to traditional minimalism, and digital minimalism, there's more of a cognitive weight. And it's a harder concept for people to understand at the beginning, but there's been a lot more people since COVID that have really turned on to that just because they feel overloaded with the kind of digital marketing and all the people that, going back to Yorba, want to be in a relationship with them. Like they want your time, they want your attention. So for Yorba, where we fit in that space is any of these podcasts or is how to start as a digital minimalist. Most of them are going to start with your inbox, right? Because that's where you're going to find the most noise in the digital world. And then they're going to go to what you pay for, what you buy online, what your subscriptions. So for Yorba, we have a whole page on digital minimalism because we have a lot of members on Yorba that have come through that mindset, that digital wellness, digital minimalism mindset. On Yorba, if you come in there and you've got 450 mailing lists that you subscribe to, you could get rid of half of those in like under an hour by just unsubscribing en masse from the tool. And so Yorba helps people really kickstart almost like a boot camp for digital minimalism. You can get going quickly towards that intent of being leaner online and having more time to focus on the things that matter to you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, loyal listeners. The Shifting Privacy Left podcast is seeking sponsors who want to help educate our growing community of privacy engineers. Position your brand in front of privacy engineers, architects, developers, researchers, and privacy tech buyers. Insert a 30 to 60 second ad like this one into every published episode of the podcast. This is dynamic content after all. Feature your new product, an upcoming conference, a sponsored special deal, endless opportunities. Email sponsorship@shiftingprivacyleft.com for more information on our sponsorship package. Okay, let's get back to our engaging privacy conversation. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that explanation. So I know that you've been working with Consumer Reports on their data rights protocol and their app Permission Slip. Tell us a little bit about that. What are you leveraging Permission Slip for? What is Permission Slip?
Yeah, Consumer Reports has this amazing innovation lab. And basically, so Permission Slip is an app that they created. They do a lot of different things that are amazing, and the kind of consumer watch practices is what you call them, like anything to make consumers' lives better, to basically bring a lens to somebody's watching over the best interest of consumers. So we love Consumer Reports. And they created this Permission Slip app, which kind of turned us on to what they've been doing. And what Permission Slip is like an authorized agent for you to submit data deletion requests, basically, through that platform. And right now they do that mainly in California through CCPA. And Yorba's kind of joined. They have a coalition of a couple different companies, which is this data rights protocol coalition, you would call it. And what they're trying to do and what Consumer Reports is organizing, because you do need like a brand and an organization like them to make something like this possible, right? Because there's all the small startups working together, the scale won't be there, right? So they've organized this group, and there's 2 on the privacy side, which are like platforms that work with businesses. They're platforms like OneTrust or MineOS that work with specific companies to manage deletion requests of data, because by law, if you get an email that says delete my data in specific areas, anywhere in Europe, which is one of the reasons that all of our teams are slowly moving here, but anywhere in Europe and California, and there's lots of other states coming online with these type of laws, the company has 30 days to delete all of your data. So on the company side, that can be actually quite difficult sometimes if you don't even know where is all of Deborah's data? Do we have her email? Do we have her bank account? Do we have social security number? Like sometimes they don't even know, it's in different systems and stuff. So there's businesses that have started on that side, mainly OneTrust and a company called Transcend. And those are 2 partners, not partners, but those are 2 participants in the data rights protocol ecosystem on the B2B side, and then Permission Slip and Yorba. So Permission Slip is the homegrown app to test out this process that Consumer Reports built. And then Yorba is obviously what we're building. We are in this ecosystem, we're called authorized agents. So basically on Yorba, hopefully by the end of Q2, so in about 3 months, maybe 4 months, all the things right now that you have to go manually delete for logins and accounts you have, you would be able to, if they are a part of, if we have them linked through these permission or these data players on the B2B side, you can just delete them automatically. It creates a ticket, sends them through the protocol, and Consumer Reports has basically standardized the process to delete your data from all these companies. So it's pretty amazing what they're doing. And Yorba's super excited to be a part of that. And everyone we've met from Consumer Reports has been fantastic in helping with our journey as a small company, because they totally could have blown us off, to be honest with you. But they've worked with us for over a year helping develop this protocol.
That's pretty awesome. Thank you so much for highlighting their good work and how you're working with them. I think that's helpful for this audience of privacy engineers. So hopefully we could have more people get involved in the ecosystem.
And that'll be great, because I think right now there's just going to be 4 people, the 2 on each side, basically trying to launch it in Q2 or summer 2024. Obviously, the more the merrier. The more B2B businesses come online, the more companies will be a part of the network. So we're excited about where it's going to go.
Awesome. Let's talk about architecture for a minute. Yorba is building a personal CRM system. What architectural design decisions did you make that kind of affect privacy here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've definitely taken some of the harder routes over time, but also some of it's just we want to, our CTO, David Schmoody, used to say that we have privacy by scarcity, right? Nobody knows we exist for a while. So it gave us time to build up a lot of these things. We focus on Mozilla's lean data practices, but we really focus on collecting. We don't collect a lot of data. We don't store data. We just process it. And then we put basically the identifiers into the CRM system so that you can access it again. So we might process somebody's inbox, which will read through the messages, but it's looking for keywords basically. And our models are just pull that out so that we can create records for you, relationship records in Yorba. We try to use a lot of the kind of like the encryption, everything's through secure access protocols. And I think a lot of the stuff we try to do is in line almost with kind of we've met with in the past, like DuckDuckGo, right? DuckDuckGo tries to collect no data, right? So privacy through, they just literally connect no data. Yorba has to collect some data, but we try to keep it at a very minimal layer so that you can access actions that you want to take on those specific relationships. And then we don't store any of that, right? And then in the future, when we might have even more data on here, Yorba's intent is to not store any data at all. And that we want to have basically people have a bring your own storage type of solution. You can bring, if you trust Google Drive, if you trust Proton Drive, which we've talked to them, like this, then we've also got Web3 options that will be coming online, which I think we'll talk about. But our goal is just to be able to encrypt that data, only access it when we need to, but it's actually stored on your local devices. So those are some of the decisions that we make along the way. We also, on the analytics thing, on the analytics front, we use Matomo, which is a fantastic platform, which allows us to anonymize all user information. So we don't have anyone's user information in Matomo. So we can see analytics that help us improve the platform, but we can't see that Deborah came in here and was thinking about deleting Netflix. We can only see kind of high-level goals and actions that we've set up through there. And it's the identifier that are associated with our members are, I think it's like a string of 20 letters and numbers, right? We would never know who you are.
Yeah, no, for Matomo, they've been around a long time. And I definitely want to highlight them to this audience because they're a competitor to basically Google Analytics, but they do the analytics in a privacy-preserving way. So speak to us a little bit about what is the quality of the product like compared to Google? So many people will be like, probably thinking, if you switch to something else, you're going to have an inferior product. And I know that's not the case with Matomo, that there's actually really great analytics. So what's your experience been in terms of the quality of the analytics while still preserving privacy?
Yeah, I would argue that it's actually way more flexible than Google Analytics, because Google Analytics is a tool that has to serve the mass market, right? It needs to be super easy to understand and packaged for a much broader audience, right? Whereas Matomo, maybe there's a little bit more of a learning curve at the beginning from Matomo, but the analytics that it can provide you and the goals and kind of the segments and all that, you get way more granular data that you would want on how people actually use your product, where they come from and stuff, because you can cut it up in all these different ways. Because with Google Analytics, right, I think it's fine for what it is for sure, which I think is better for like websites than it would be for like products, but they've definitely tried to create products type of analytics tools recently. But for us, Matoma does everything we needed to do and more. We've reached out to them before for like support desk tickets, and they've been fantastic. We've also used Fathom in the past on our website. And right now our website's a mix of things, to be honest. Yeah. And the other thing that we like with Matoma is, which we haven't done it yet because just it hasn't been prioritized in our backlog, but you can host it on your own servers, right? So whereas Google Analytics, you consent to helping make Google smarter across all these things by using Google Analytics. With Matoma, you can keep it on your own private instance, right? So that data doesn't actually ever leave your servers, right? Which, for a European-based company with GDPR and stuff, that's highly important, that we're not taking users' data. And even if it's anonymized, being grouped in and repackaged and resold for like the greater data platforms that are Google. So basically, our members can sleep well at night knowing that it's just for us to basically improve the platform for them. It's for nobody else, and nobody else sees it. And that's why we like Matoma.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. And I wasn't even trying to just get you to talk about how awesome a particular product is, like a particular company's product, Matoma. It's more that like Google's the status quo. Most people, they set up a new website or product. That's literally, it's just no brainer to them. That's what everyone uses. It's status quo. So that's what they go use. But I want people here in this conversation to understand that, no, you have a choice. And if you're doing privacy by design and you have design decisions to make, something like Matoma or Fathom is out there. It's been around for, God, I feel like over a decade. Like this isn't a new product. I think it comes from Europe. So maybe it's lesser known here in the US. I've only heard positive things about it. It's gotten better over time.
When we talked to their support guy, he was based out of Paris. I don't know if the whole company is based out of Paris, but he was from France. So I don't know if it's headquartered out of France or I think it's a remote first thing, because there was somebody else from the US that we talked to at one point as well. But it's come a long way over the last like year or two that we've been using. The interface has gotten a lot better, but it's a very powerful tool. We don't want to highlight just one product or tool, but I guess going back to your earlier question about why be a PBC, what's the benefit of that? It's, I guess, what we're highlighting right now with Matoma, although I don't even know if I think they're a nonprofit. I'm actually not sure how they're structured, but they are doing things the right way. And even if it's a little less convenient at the beginning, you can tell that companies like ours, that makes a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And so we're still talking about architecture here, and I'm really excited to bring up the concept of decentralized identity, because I think a lot of like your long-term plan with Yorba really centers around decentralized identity, decentralized storage. And as you mentioned before, email address has been used as a primary key identifier for individuals for so long across organizations. You're flipping the script here with decentralized identity by giving people the power to use their identifier to find stuff across their inbox, their relationships, and with platforms, as you said. Tell us a little bit about the benefits of using decentralized identity, which, is also referred to as self-sovereign identity. You're never going to hear someone like Google talk about self-sovereign identity, right? Like it's a little more disruptive to general business of the idea of getting everyone to be self-sovereign. But you will hear like a large company like Google talk about decentralized identity, specifically like where all the logins, all the social logins that we use to, whether we log in with Facebook, log in with Google, that's a decentralized identity architectural design choice. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the benefits of using decentralized identity, and then how, you're off into thinking about even moving into self-sovereign identity and what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, it's definitely, you could argue that kind of the initial research kind of paper, deck, presentation, whatever you want to call it, that started Yorba was mainly around this topic. Everything we built around the CRM and stuff was to galvanize people around the problem of the bloated internet. So where we want to go is more on the self-sovereign identity. We think it's crazy that kind of the platforms have all kind of owned this kind of login with Facebook, login with Google, and just how long basically email has persisted as the primary identifier of identity online, which is crazy. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. So we're not naive to that. So we're trying to take Web 2 patterns and put Web 3 kind of infrastructure beneath them at Yorba, where we want to go, right? Because self-sovereign identity and decentralized identity has a lot of benefits. The main ones really, which is why you'll never hear the big companies really embrace them, are it gives individuals control over their personal information, right? It also allows you to only share what's necessary, right? And it enhances the privacy and security when you do that, right? So if I have control over it, if I only have to share what I want to share with the platform. So going back to that kind of like Yorba helps broker relationships between people and platforms. Right now, we're all about reducing all the bloat. In the future, will be about brokering the better things. So if it wants to be, in a relationship with Netflix, you know what you're sharing with them. You're sharing this block of information, this block of information, but you're in that in a transparent way. I think that the way that decentralized storage works, obviously, is from a privacy audience, which they can educate me more on than I can educate them on it. But for sure, if you want to attack or try to, when you're putting all this type of stuff in one area, it's super scary. And that is the same case with Yorba. So the goal that we have with Yorba is to be able to load something that looks like a personal profile that you can use as identify an agent to connect to different platforms around the internet. But at the same time, that information that's stored for that is actually decentralized into all of these pods around the internet. So it would be very hard for you to ever break into that. There is no central source. There is no, we just broke in and stole all these passwords or all these people's social security numbers, because everything would be broken down into these federated storage pods around the world, right? So that we're just organizing essentially into a easy to digest interface. And then when you log out, it's gone again, right? Back into its nodes. So you can never really hack Yorba is the goal.
That's pretty exciting. And it makes it, if you have centralized storage somewhere, then the criminal hackers are going to go where the money is, which is where, go try to hack into that large storage, whether it's an S3 bucket or some other storage. And so that's, you want to make sure those things are all configured appropriately. There's all these challenges with doing that. So yeah, it definitely seems to make things safer by decentralizing storage. And then with decentralized identity or something like using a social login, it's helpful that you don't have to remember all these other identities when you're logging in. But if you're using something like login with social media companies, they're able to continue to track what you're doing on these third-party sites because they know you logged in now to this site, right? So you're basically, if you're using the social media decentralized identity logins, then you're adding to the kind of surveillance machine almost. But if you're using something that's maybe branded more self-sovereign identity, it's still decentralized identity, but something like what you're doing is you're not tracking across websites as people are logging in. So you connect that decentralized identity with decentralized storage, and you're making a person's personal infrastructure more secure, safer, and less likely of a target for hackers.
For sure. And I think that's what we're hoping, that the secret sauce, this kind of next phase of the internet around how people manage relationships, is basically essentially a CRM system meets private profiles. So some of the things, but built on kind of Web3 and kind of future tech type of privacy and security systems and pods beneath it. But what looks like it, and like my co-founder of Ruca and my co-founder of Yorba is a very talented designer named Nolan Kabahe, and he designs these things, right? And it looks super simple, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to bring a minimalist type of platform that has a lot of power underneath it, and essentially connecting CRMs and profiles in a private PBC benefit corporation way, and hoping that galvanizes a big enough community that we can make real change without these things are done online.
I'm really impressed with the mission and the simplicity and ease of use. Keep it up. What's next for Yorba? What's like on your roadmap, or how do you see the next year shaping up?
The next year, we've definitely got buckets that we want to get into. We obviously, with the wave of people that came from the TechCrunch article right now, we are just reaching out, talking to premium members on the platform and users on the platform to see what we can do better. We're working on better scanning, right? So our models, so basically being able to do better scanning, better processing, faster processing, and then be able to really focus in on, right now, we're all about aggregating this data and organizing it for you. And once we're good enough at that, our next bridge will be into getting the direct actions that you can do from Yorba better. So all the data rights protocol stuff that we talked about earlier. So getting those better, getting our unsubscribes better, our cancel subscriptions better. And then once those are good, those one-to-one actions, really working a lot on automations and scripts, basically, and what we call like the Yo-bot. So essentially you could say, I just want to remove anything that I don't read this much, or something I haven't logged into in this set duration. And we just run scripts through your data and basically start removing and pruning and cleaning things up for you. So little bookkeeper, housekeeper type of automated bot that will start doing that on your behalf. So make the process a little less manual. But first we have to keep cleaning and getting better at the scans so we can do that.
That would be really helpful to me personally, because I've had my email address since Gmail was still in beta, when it first came out. And I have a lot of junk that keeps getting sent to me, and I need to unsubscribe. And I don't know, 30,000 unread emails over the course of 15, 20 years. I could definitely use some help with cleaning up my inbox.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like the dark patterns that companies use these days, because we were in private beta last year and we had people being like, I unsubscribed from this, but I keep getting it. And so now we started grouping those so that it's easier for people to understand. But if you think you unsubscribed from like a Betterment email on Tuesday, you might have just unsubscribed from Betterment Tuesday notification email. You might still be on 20 different things. So that's how companies these days, they have to, because of the Spam Act, they have to allow you to unsubscribe from emails. And we hope eventually there'll be something like the Spam Act on deleting your accounts, which I know there's people working on at the political level. But if you think about the way that companies do all this, it's crazy. And we've learned a lot over the last 2 years because they just really make it hard for you to break up with them, as we all know. But when you actually see that in Yorba CRM and you're like, oh, wow, I get 14 emails from LinkedIn. So when I thought I unsubscribed from that one thing, I was just unsubscribing from the Tuesday 10 a.m. coffee email, right? I still get 19 more, right? And so you do have to unsubscribe one by one from all of those currently, unless you just turn them all off. So it's crazy. But we're trying to create real tools for people to fight back. So.
Yeah, I love it. It's empowering people. What's the best way that listeners can learn more about Yorba or can reach out to you and maybe to collaborate or get a demo?
Yeah, absolutely. So Yorba's open, public beta. It's free to sign up, free to scan, see all the stuff that you've accrued. Yeah, just go to yorba.co. So yorba.co, no M. So yorba.co, and you'll see all the fun stuff that we're doing on there. And yeah, sign up, join our community. We'd love to have you.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything else you want to leave the audience with before we close today?
No, I think we've covered everything. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fun ride. So join us.
Excellent. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today on the Shifting Privacy Left podcast.
Awesome.
Until next Tuesday, everyone, when we'll be back with engaging content and another great guest or guests. Thanks for joining us this week on Shifting Privacy Left. Make sure to visit our website, shiftingprivacyleft.com, where you can subscribe to updates so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found this episode valuable, go ahead and share it with a friend. And if you're an engineer who cares passionately about privacy, check out Privado, the developer-friendly privacy platform and sponsor of this show. To learn more, go to privado.ai. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday for a new episode. Bye for now.